Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My chosen topic is whether or not exposure to media violence increases an individual's likelihood of engaging in violent behavior. I was able to locate 3 articles relevant to this topic, of which I have picked one to specifically talk about, which is a study by L. Rolls Usman, Jessica Moyes Titus, Cheryl Lynn Podolsky, and Leonard D. Aaron, titled Longitudinal Relations Between Children's Exposure to TV Violence and Their Aggressive Behavior in Young Adulthood. This study is highly relevant to my chosen topic as it provides data on the long-term effects of exposure to different levels of media violence, as well as background on such effects in different social strata, such as socioeconomic, educational, and intellectual backgrounds. The aim was to investigate the long-term relationship between childhood exposure to violence in media and aggressive behavior in young adults. The relationship would be positive, and the longitudinal effects could be solely explained by the third variable series, which the data in the end did not support. These third variables, which include social class and IQ, are known to be correlated to TV viewing and aggression. The total participants present in the original and current study were 329. 153 were male, 176 were female. Approximately 60% of the original participants were acquired. 2 major waves of study were done, one on children in the 1970s and the other on the same children of the first wave who became young adults in the 1990s. Self-reports were carried out by both subjects and their parents to gauge TV violence viewing and tendency for aggression at the given time of when the interviews of both waves were carried out, as well as finding the social strata of each participant. IQ was also tested in the first wave for the children. The first wave of interviewing was carried out by Huseman and Aaron in 1986, and their data was used in the current study. Parent variables were investigated to rule out the alternate hypothesis that parental factors could account for the longitudinal relationship between adult aggression and childhood TV violence viewing, where there was no significant evidence to support it. This table 4, shows that a significant correlation between childhood TV violence viewing and the composite measure of adult aggression 15 years later. It also shows a significant correlation to adult aggression and identification of the children to same-sex aggressive TV characters and childhood perceptions that TV violence reflects on real life. These correlations were able to validate clearly that childhood exposure to media violence is indeed related to aggression in adulthood. Both females and, as concluded, both females and males of all strata on all levels of aggressiveness at childhood have an increased risk for aggressive and violent behavior during adulthood when they're exposed to constant and high levels of media violence in early childhood. For future research, the researchers suggested that the studies should be more directed at interventions that parents and governments and schools would be able to promote that would decrease these long-term effects of aggressiveness in adulthood. Measure of indirect aggressiveness in the first stage during childhood needs to be carried out due to the lack of relationship that was found between exposure to media violence and female aggression as a child. A future hypothesis that could be studied is that identification or perceptions of realism are more heavily depended upon by observational learning as opposed to desensitization. So, and this hypothesis allows for the comparison of these two theories on aggression. That's all for my oral presentation. Thank you for listening.